We are at the end of an entire book on the subject, but is ambient music still impossible to define? My name is Phil. I play ambient music under the name Left the Chat, and I am a former librarian. But once a librarian, always a librarian. So I run this book club. Welcome back to Ambient Book Club. Today we are covering chapter 6, the last chapter in 20th Century Ambient by Dusty Henry, a 33 and a third genre series. This book has been excellent, inspiring, informative, and just bite-sized enough to not be too intimidating. But did it answer the question we began with, which was, what is ambient music? Chapter 6 is titled, What is Ambient? Reprise. And Dusty Henry asks himself the same question. Was there a point to this entire journey, or are we back where we started? In this chapter, Dusty tells us about his journey through research and writing the book and gives a bunch of recommendations of albums that he found that he enjoys for various reasons. And he says, trying to pinpoint ambient feels like trying to grab at a cloud. And I think that's exactly right. We can reach for a satisfying definition, but I don't think we're ever going to find one. And I think every single person that you talk to is going to give you a different definition of what they believe ambient music is. And I believe that they are all valid definitions. So the truth is, the inspiration I got from this book is define it for yourself. But I don't mean that in a dismissive way. I mean it as a challenge. Ambient music is constantly evolving with ideas, with new technology, and it picks up different influences as we have seen throughout its history, and it will continue to change. So there is no satisfying definition that we can hang our hat on. But the challenge is for you to spend time listening, creating, and really getting deep into what you do like, what you don't like, and where you draw the lines for what constitutes ambient music. So today I want to present to you a non-universal, personal definition of ambient music. That is a list of attributes and qualities that I am looking for as a listener and as a musician when it comes to ambient. And as ambient is constantly changing, so too will my list, so too will my ideas, and so too will the things that I hold as important. So please don't hold me to any of this in the future, but it is a great jumping off point. And I hope it inspires you to think about what's important to you in the music that you listen to. We will call this an ambient manifesto by Left the Chat. Rough draft. So here I have a list of 8 qualities that I look for in an ambient music. And with each one, I will give you a recommendation of an album or a project or an artist that I believe embodies that quality. Number 1, I look for music that has a strong sense of place. When I'm writing music, I often start with the field recording. It is the sound bed for everything that I do. And when I listen back to the tracks that I've written, that's the place that my ear goes, that my mind goes, wherever and whenever that field recording took place. It's a very personal thing because I was the only one there recording it. So when other people listen, they may not and probably can't put themselves exactly in the place that I was. But hopefully, some of that feeling shows through the track and is able to be communicated to the listener. I love music that belongs somewhere. I love music that has roots and is not just generic atmosphere. It belongs to a landscape, it belongs to a specific room, a specific city, a specific part of the world. It has a strong sense of keynote sounds that anchor it to a place and a time. This is music that could not have been made anywhere else. And when I read that an artist painstakingly recreated the feeling that they had in the place that the music was created, that really gives me something to grab onto as a listener. An album that really embodies a strong sense of place is by an artist out of New York called Sapato. I think that's how it's pronounced. Saapato. And this album is called In Alaska. It came out in 2023. And he was commissioned by the Alaska State Park Service to really capture the feeling via hydrophones and field recordings of being in Alaska. Having never been there, I can't say how accurately reproduced that feeling is, but it's a beautiful album with sounds that sitting here in Florida, I will maybe never hear. That album could not exist without that place. It has a strong sense of place and time because those sounds, as development continues, as the earth begins to change, may not be there forever, at least not in the way that you hear them on the album. So it's a strong album for this quality of place. The second thing I look for in ambient music is intention. Why does this music exist? Why does it sound the way it sounds? And did the artist make choices? Strong choices. Is there a lot of decision? There are a lot of beautiful albums out there, but beauty alone doesn't do it for me. Interesting sound alone can't hold my attention for long. And as AI gets better and better at copying what we do, we need, as artists, to make clear our intention and our decision making more and more. So, intention is kind of interwoven in all of the points on my list, but I wanted to draw specific attention to it because it's of the utmost importance to me when I'm deciphering what is good music versus slop. And for this one, I think we could recommend Hiroshi Yoshimura, the albums that he created as commissions for specific rooms, specific prefab houses, and different companies. Green, Music for 9 Postcards. I'd also like to make a shout out to a local artist, Daniel Fuzztone, who I believe brings a lot of intention to his music. Much of it has a strong message of urgency, often has a sense of protest and current events. And I think we need more of that in ambient music. And that brings me to number 3, which is a purpose to convey ideas. Music can convey a message without words. And I continually come back to music that has something to say. Whether it's music about history, politics, ecology, spirituality, religion. These strongly messaged projects that aren't just ear candy, but really challenge me conceptually, grab my attention, and become memorable. I don't just listen to it once, I listen to it over and over, play it again in my head, and really stew on the message that the artist is trying to get across. My recommendation for an album with a strong sense of concept and idea is a popular one that many people know by William Basinski called The Disintegration Loops. And it was shortly after September 11th. He lived in New York City, witnessed the events that happened there, and created a concept of an album that I think really gets across the feeling of the time. I think it's worth reading about on its own, and I think it's worth listening to if you've never heard of it. The fourth concept that I look for in ambient music is process. The making of the music matters. I like music that I know how it was made. I like to see behind the scenes. I like when an artist lets me in. Show your work. Don't be mysterious. Again, in the world of AI, a mysterious artist can't exist because I'm going to assume at this point it's probably fake. The things I like to see in process is DIY mentality, maybe a unique workflow, maybe handmade instruments, something I've never seen before. But most importantly, just that personality is shining through. I love when an artist does the harder thing. There are a million ways to skin a cat in today's digital world, but I appreciate when an artist goes above and beyond, does things practically, does things a way that no one else would. Either they wouldn't know how or they wouldn't be willing to, but it becomes the artist's mantra to not take the easy way out and do the harder thing. It matters. My recommendations here are Aquasonic, Between Music. This is a project like nothing you've ever seen. The instruments were all made and designed individually to work underwater. Then the artists climbed into underwater tanks, aquariums, and performed underwater pieces. That's commitment to the concept. And they documented the whole thing. And we also see this with a YouTuber named Heinbach, who has an obsession with unusual, vintage, analog, often extremely rare and expensive gear that only he could find. And then he makes albums with this gear, but he takes us along for the journey. He's not just throwing an album at us and we're hearing weird sounds and not understanding what we're hearing at all. He gives us long-form videos, the journey of how he found the piece, the journey of the history of the item, and how he was able to work through the limitations of weird and old gear to come up with something usable that is still aesthetically pleasing. So for number 5, I want to make it clear that I'm not some monster who only thinks logically and doesn't love beauty or have a care in the world for aesthetic. So there are some things that I find aesthetically pleasing that draw my ear. Things that I look for, qualities that make me say, that's a nice sounding album. So this is less philosophy and more just personal taste. I look for smoothness. I look for little to no attack or percussion. I like transitions that are very long and drawn out. I don't like to be surprised when I'm listening to ambient music. And as far as instrumentation, I'm a guitarist. I played drums when I was younger. I liked indie rock. So I do have an affinity for guitar pedals, pedal culture, the sounds of guitars, especially when used in weird ways. And I also like other instruments going through a guitar pedal board. There's a well-known artist named Noveller, and she plays guitar music through very large pedal boards, and it's just her making compositions using various guitar pedals and wild sounds and very textured sounds. Each of her albums is great. She just released a new one this year. Also this year, an artist named Walt McClemens toured through the area that I live, and I was introduced to his music. And it's unique because he plays the accordion through guitar pedals. And this is the kind of thing that I love. Maybe it's a little bit predictable, the sounds that you're going to get when you run through modern day guitar pedals, but it never gets old to me. And as someone who uses guitar pedals, I can get really entranced on trying to figure out, as I listen, the pedal order, the signal chain, exact knobs that are being manipulated as the song goes on. And I really love to see everyone's different configurations of their pedal board and their different workflows as they play live. Number 6, accessibility. I'm a librarian. I care about this. I care about bringing information and media to everyone, regardless of their resources, regardless of whether they're a beginner or an expert. Everything should be accessible to everyone always. And that includes ambient music, which is at times heady and intimidating. And if you want to be an artist, ambient music seems like you need many thousands of dollars worth of gear to get started. And for a lot of artists, that's true. Their rigs are extremely expensive. But I do think more and more, as technology gets better and better, there are plenty of ways to be a listener and an artist of ambient music without breaking the bank, without having a large musical education. And through resources like YouTube, you can learn everything you could want to know about how to make ambient music. To me, the heart of ambient music lies in curiosity. It's music for the curious listener, people who dive deeper. It's music for the curious musician, people who obsess over the details. And that is accessible to everyone. You just have to stop and listen. So I like artists who recommend others more than they promote themselves. I like artists who share their process and tutorials and walkthroughs. I like artists who don't gatekeep ideas or concepts. Share information. Ambient music, you're never going to make a ton of money on some unique, patented idea. That's not the purpose of this. Make it accessible. Make it beginner friendly. Make it so that some kid who hears something tranquil and says, wait, that's a guitar? How do I get that sound? Can get the answer quickly and easily and do it for themselves that day. Ambient music is not about ego. It's about community. And so my recommendation for accessibility is actually not an album at all. It is Sonic Meditations by Pauline Oliveros. It's a PDF you can find freely online. It's a book of activities centered around listening that you can share with other people or do yourself. You don't need any equipment or specialized knowledge. You just read the prompt and you practice the skill of listening, which is all that really matters in ambient music. And that's why listening is number 7, the practice of listening itself. Because ambient isn't about just music. As I've said before, ambient is for those who go a little bit deeper, who ask where a sound comes from, how a sound was made, who try to engage with making the sounds themselves. It's for the listeners. So my recommendation for number 7 is to wake up early tomorrow, or whenever you're able to this week, when your schedule allows. Look up when your sunrise comes up locally, and you can find something called nautical twilight. There should be an exact time that you can find online for when that happens in your local area. And this is the time of morning where just a tiny bit of light starts on the horizon. You still can't really see much, it's still dark out. But at nautical twilight, you'll start to hear the dawn chorus. Birds, insects, frogs. They wake up, they start to get loud. They aren't competing with each other, but they're each finding their own place in the frequency spectrum. And it's an orchestra. And if you really pay attention to it, you can really find a depth, an experience that's out there for you every single morning. We just aren't listening. We just aren't out there. We're in bed. We're hearing the hum of our refrigerator and our air conditioner. And we're missing this orchestra that happens every single morning that's free to us. So find a time this week to wake up early and catch the dawn chorus. My 8th and final quality that is important to my ambient music experience, and the whole reason that any of us are here, is community. Music has always been communal. It has not always been online. We can sit around in our bedrooms, make music, and even release them to the digital world via Spotify and YouTube. And these are great practices. But at the end, it's just a vehicle to get us in the room with other listeners and other musicians, other appreciators of ambient music, people that we just have something in common with. So the whole point of any of this is to find collaborators, to find mentors, to be mentees, or vice versa, to find friends. To me, the opposite of ambient isn't loud. The opposite of ambient is isolation. So my recommendation for community building is challenge yourself to get out of the bedroom, get out of the living room, and go play music with another person. Go listen to nature sounds with another person. Don't settle for feeling good through some sound in your bedroom. Challenge yourself to feeling uncomfortable with the end goal of finding community. When I started this channel, it was to talk about ambient music and to promote my own ambient music and to have a practice and a process of my own that I could share with other people, and maybe even down the road have some grand ideas about what different projects could raise awareness about. And I don't think I'm doing any of that anymore. I think now I'm building an archive of listening in order to share with you, in the hopes that other people out there share the same interests and engage with me in conversation, whether it be in person or in the digital world. So thank you for reading this first book with me. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your artist and album recommendations week to week. And thank you for making this feel like an actual book club and not just another talking head on YouTube. Buy the book, 20th Century Ambient by Dusty Henry. Thank you for giving us a curriculum, Dusty. It was an excellent read. It's going to stay on my shelf for the rest of time. I hope you sell a lot of copies. I hope people really engage with it. And thank you for jumping into the comments. I know that you're aware of these videos, and I hope you enjoyed them. I hope we did justice to your source material. That's it for book 1. Book 2 coming up.